Hello, this is Jake with Flathead Audubon, and I'm part of the Jewel Basin Hawk Watch team. And today I'm going to walk you through how to set up our new site recording software. It is an app called Trektellen. In the past, we've used Dunkadoo. That is no longer around, and so we've switched over to this new program called Trektellen, and it's an app that can run on both Android and iOS devices. And they have a central repository website that you can go ahead and visit. While you can use an iOS device or an Android device of your own, we are recommending that you use the one that we're providing just because it's already logged in and set up. Also, an Android device, the one difference between the two apps is the Android device allows for automatic uploading while you're tallying. So those that are viewing from home can go ahead and see the counts as they're happening real time. And it does if you make a change, so if you record, say, a prairie falcon, and then you realize, oh, actually that was a peregrine falcon, somebody misidentified it, when you change it, it will go ahead and update it as well. The one thing that it doesn't do automatically is upload the metadata, but I'll go ahead and show you how to do that regardless of the device that you're using. The first thing is if you just go to trektellen.org, and that's Trektellen.org. You can go ahead and see all the different migration counts that are happening across the world. And they include like seabird and as well as raptors and all kinds of them. But if you go to that website, you can go ahead and see, just tons and tons of counts happening, which is super fun to be part of. We don't have any up just yet, but we will starting tomorrow, which is August 25th. And then you'll be able to go ahead and see all the counts that we're currently logging. So I have this device here that we'll have up at the Hawkwatch site. And what you'll do is you'll either search on iOS, it's iTrektellen, or it's just Trektellen. And you're looking for this swallow icon over here. And so once it's installed from either Google Play or Apple's App Store, you go ahead and open it up, and we will give you the password once if you are installing it, like I said, on your personal device. But I'm going to go ahead and quickly log in here. And so this is what it looks like once you log in. Handful of options when you first log in. The first one that we're going to go ahead and do, which if you're counting up at Jewel Basin, you won't have to do this because this will already have been set up. But you want to go ahead and click on downloads. And you want to go ahead and download not English, but American English. And then click download. And the reason is because English is UK and they have different names for some of their species. So we go ahead and choose American English. So we have like the red-tailed hawk instead of the common buzzard. And then from there, I went ahead and changed a couple of things, such as the font size, so that it would be a little bit bigger for the buttons, so it would be easier to see. The default observers, we aren't having any in here. If you are using this as your personal device, then you can go ahead and put that in there. The default site for us is Jewel Basin Hawk Watch. The default count type is storks and raptors, and you can see they have a bunch of different ones for various counts across the world. You also choose, we found that 5 rows and 4 columns works well, especially for the default birds that we have listed. The species order is important, and that is also how it populates those buttons. And so we have them in taxonomic order. If you find it, if you're up at Jewel Basin and you find doing it in species name is a little bit more helpful, you can go ahead and switch that. But we'll group it by groups. And then most of these are going to go ahead and just be standard settings. The one that is unique, like I said earlier, to Android is the auto upload. So we went ahead and checked that. And then once you're done, you click back on the little back button at the bottom, and then you can go ahead and start counts. So the first thing is once you hit start count, you'll go ahead and see which site it is. And so we go ahead and just choose the Jewel Basin Hawk Watch site. And you can go ahead and make potentially some weather notes or whatever. We're going to go ahead and cover all of that at the end of the counts. The first thing really you just want to do, I think it's probably a good idea to go ahead and put in the observer one name, which would be the primary observer's name. And then especially if this is the first hour, which usually isn't an hour long because very rarely do you get up there right at, say, like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. And so say for this one, since we're starting here at, I can't even remember exactly, but we'll just say we're going to be 6 minutes because we're going to do we're just going to do this hour. But we'll cover all of these options just in a little bit. And so just go ahead and hit start count. And then here's where we have, this will be very familiar. The main functional difference between Dunkadoo and Trektellen from a data entry perspective is in Dunkadoo, a count would be the entire day. It was one count, and you have metadata that you would enter in every single hour, and you would just add metadata to that count. With Trektellen, the difference is that every count has metadata with it. And so you can't have multiple chunks of metadata. So every single hour, you'll start a new count, and that's when you'll go ahead and be able to put in this metadata. So it's early in the season, so one of the first birds, say, we'll see is an osprey, and we aren't sure whether it's an adult, a male or female, or there's obviously no morph. So we'll just go ahead and do that, and we click save. And as soon as you hit save, you're ready for another species. The way that we are, one of the options of aging is a little bit different this year because in the past with Dunkadoo, it would restrict the different options, whether, dark morph, pale morph, or whether or not you could accurately sex the bird as it was going by, or the age. Now those options stay the same for all the different birds. And so if you see any of the raptors that are not eagles, and you recognize that this is a first year bird, because all these birds in their second year will have basically adult plumage, you'll go ahead and choose. So say we have an immature sharp-shinned hawk that flies by. So we go ahead and hit sharp-shinned hawk, and we saw one. And there's adult, there's second calendar year, greater than 1 calendar year, or 1 calendar year. Choose 1 calendar year, also known as the first cycle. And that would mean you have an immature sharp-shinned hawk because they are still in their juvenile plumage. So you choose sharp-shinned hawk in 1 calendar year, 1 CY, and we don't know sex or morphology on that bird, and then you'd hit save. If you see a golden eagle that flies by, and you see that, and you can clearly see that this bird is a first year bird, the plumage is, all the white on it is really crisp, and all of the feathers are very even. So you can go ahead and this is a hatch year bird. Any bird that is not a hatch year bird, the way that their plumage, the way that they molt their feathers, you'll see a couple of their feathers are significantly shorter than the others. And a hatch year bird, they get all fresh feathers, so all the feathers should be very uniform. So this one, say it has a couple of feathers, you can see that they have molted this year, but it has a lot of white. Say it has some white in the wings and has some white in the tail. So you know that this is greater than, it's greater than 1 calendar year. So you know this is older. This is the second year the bird's been around or better, but you know it's not a full adult. So you would choose greater than 1 CY, which would be basically a subadult bird. So we see one of those. So we hit 1 and then we hit save. If you see an actual, and this will be similar to a bald eagle, so you'll want to look up what a hatchier bald eagle looks like. And then anything that's not that, but is also not all white, that would also be greater than 1 cycle year, or an adult. I don't see us really using a 2 calendar year bird unless you really are able to pick up what that is. So we're really only concerned with the first cycle, and then obviously with eagles, they have that kind of middle, like 4 year, like they have like another 3 or 4 years before they become adults. So you want to make sure that you just choose greater than 1 calendar year and then adult after that. So say we have, we have a couple of bald eagles, a couple of adults that come by. And if you keep tapping on the actual bird's name, you can see that increases. And so say I accidentally hit 5 of them and we hit save. And then I realize, and then if you look at the very top here, you can see this icon, which looks like a little page, a little piece of paper there. So if we hit that, you can go ahead and see what the records are for this count right here. And you can see, and you're like, oh shoot, there is 5 bald eagles. I know there were only 2 of them. So if you click on the Greek letter up here, you can see what the day totals are. and you can go ahead and see what the totals are, and that's going to show you, I believe it shows all the counts for that season, but we can go ahead and verify that. But if you look at the records here, and you can see, oh, here's the bald eagle, and so if you tap on that, you can go ahead and decrease this one down to 2. This also is really useful if you have a series of a bunch of birds coming through. And say if you're like a photographer and you took a picture of a bird and you weren't sure what it was, and so then after the mayhem of the birds, you realize, oh shoot, I forgot to put that one in. If you tap the time icon at the top, you can go ahead and say, oh, this bird, I saw it at, whatever, this would be 4:55, and you hit OK. So that's when I saw those 2 bald eagles. And then you hit save. And so now if we look at our counts in our records, you can see the bald eagle, and now it's changed to 4:55. So that's a way you can go ahead and quickly edit the records. And then when you're done, if you just go ahead and hit the back arrow at the very top of the screen, and now you're back to counting. If you tap in this vertical ellipsis, I guess, icon at the very top, that is where you can see end count or edit count. If you click edit count, you'll go back to the metadata screen right over here, which could be useful if you had another counter show up partway through the count. And so say that they showed up, like at 4:15 or whatever, so you knew they were going to be up there for 45 minutes till the end of the day. So then you can go ahead and put in Bob counter and his observation duration, because he showed up at 4:15. He was up there for 45 minutes. I'm just going to go ahead and put that I was up here for an hour. And then you can go ahead and hit save, and when you do, it goes ahead and brings you right back to the count list. When you're all done at the very end of the hour, you go ahead and hit that little, I'm going to call it a vertical ellipsis, and you do end count, and you say, are you sure you want to end this count? And we say yes. So now we're back over to the metadata screen. If there was anything interesting with the weather, you can go ahead and put those weather notes. And this is where there is a lot of those baked in options that are specific to Trektellen's original their protocols. So we ended up using some of them, but most of these we have our own. But wind direction would be one that we're going to use. So say it was the southwest winds, ignore everything else except for precipitation. You can go ahead and just say there was no precipitation, we'll just say. But you can ignore the rest of these. And then so we have our counters that were here. And then we can go down to Fahrenheit. And so it was a little bit cool. It was 53. Our wind speed was 8 to 12. Terminal lift, it was fair. There was a little bit of spiraling. Height of flight, it was visible with binoculars. Cloud cover was partly cloudy. The predominant cloud site. So if you've done one of our Hawk Watches, this is all pretty standard. So there was some stratus clouds. That was the most common one. The secondary type, there was a little bit of haze in the air. Visibility, we could go ahead and see to Wild Horse Island. Predominant flight path, they were off to the west. And distance code, we needed to ID them with binoculars. So for observers, go ahead and put the primary observer ID here again. And the only reason why we're doing this again is because that's actually what shows up on Trektellen's page. So I'm going to go ahead and put my name up here. And then there was one counter. And then we'll just say two. Actually, we'll say there was... we'll just say one for right now. We'll go ahead and tweak that if we decide that how we're going to use those. And then, of course, you can put in any remarks. So now we're done with all of our metadata, and we're ready to start another hour. So you go ahead and hit save. And when you hit save, it says create a follow-up account or follow-up count. And then you can say header info will be copied, and the new start time is the end time of this count. So we go ahead and say yes. And so here we go. So now we have a new count that has started. And then from this point, just like before, now if we go ahead, it copied over all the metadata. So you can see the wind still says southwest, precipitation's none. Here's the different counters. And if you want to go ahead and update this at this point, you can. But most of the stuff, obviously, you're not going to know because you can't see in the future. So just go ahead and hit start count. And now we can go ahead and say, oh, we have a male kestrel that just flew in. And so we hit one of those, and you hit save. This is going to be a lot of, apparently a lot of falcons flew by. We had a merlin come by, and we weren't sure whether or not it was an adult or immature, really hard to tell. So we go ahead and hit save, and now we're all done with this count. So once again, we can go ahead and take a look. You can see the day totals. So this is going to go ahead and show us all of the totals for all the counts so far. And then this totals is just the totals for this specific count right here. So we can go ahead and see that we just have these 2 falcons, but for the day you can see we have all the bald eagles and all that stuff. And then you can see if you want to edit the records, you need to go ahead and that is only for these counts. So great, we're looking good. We're all done at we're end of the hour. So now we go ahead and want to end this count. And it says, are you sure you want to? And you say yes. And so then make sure you look at the top at the time. You want to end the count to make sure that the time is correct. And so obviously we're going to go ahead and, we're going to go ahead and go 17, and it's going to be 17:59 here with this cute little time picker. And then we're going to go ahead and say the wind actually did shift a little bit. So it's a little bit more south-southwest. We have our counter data all good. Warmed up a little bit to 60, blah, blah, blah. So it goes through all these sort of things. And then we're going to go ahead and hit save and say that this is the last one of the day. We're about ready to head home. So we go ahead and say, create a follow-up count, and we say no. Now, if you accidentally say no and you're like, oh, I do need to start a new count, go ahead and look at your last count, which would be the one that's at the very top. And if you tap on that, you can go ahead and if there's, if you need to edit the count, whether you need to change the weather info, if you need to go ahead and change a bird species, say that you had looked at somebody had taken a photo while you were up there and zoomed in and they're like, oh, actually that was really, an adult dark morph broadwing hawk instead of something else. So you can go ahead and you can edit that count, and you can go ahead and say, if we hit save here, that's if you need to do the metadata, but if you need to edit the sightings, you hit edit sightings, and this is where you can go ahead and say, actually, that was a female. I messed up. I hit the wrong button, so now that's saved. And then we go ahead and hit back. Yes, we want to end this count, and we save it. And so if you need to edit any of those, you just tap it, and if edit count means edit the metadata, edit sightings, or add sightings is how you go ahead and edit those. So when you're all, and then so like I said before, if you ended it, you actually said no more counts, and you realize, oh shoot, I messed up and pressed the wrong button. If you do create a follow-up account, and it'll say, the header information will be copied over, so you can go ahead and see, here's all the header information, so they're all ready to go, and then you would hit start count. And if you realize, oh, that I don't want to, I was actually done, I hit cancel. So now here we are at this, so it's the very end of the day, and you should see the counts for how many hours you were up there, starting with the first partial count that you had. We were up there for just 2 hours. And so right now you just go ahead and hit the upload all button. And then it says those 2 counts are uploaded. So what that did was that uploaded all of the metadata and all that extra information to Trektellen's website. So now if we go back over to Trektellen and we hit refresh here, we can go ahead and see there's Jewel Basin Hawk Watch right there. If that might be a little bit small. So you can go ahead and see Jewel Basin Hawk Watch. You can see there's 6 species, 7 individuals, and the most recent change was 1 minute ago. So we'll go ahead and click on this, and we can go ahead and see, here's all of our count information right here. And if we look at all of our header data, you can go ahead and see, and this is where I said before, the observers column there shows a primary, and that's why we're going to go ahead and use, make sure as a primary you put that in the observers column, and that way people looking at it from home can go ahead and see that. And if we click all details, we'll be able to see all of these different counts that happen throughout the day, and then we'll be able to edit those back, like Dan or myself or even you will be able to go ahead and edit those if you go ahead and log in. So anyways, I'll go ahead and clean all this up, this sample data, but that's basically it. Once you're all done and if they're all uploaded, you just go ahead and hit cancel. You're back to the screen, and then you can go ahead and exit and shut down the the phone for the day and pack up and head down. We do on this phone, I did put up the NOAA forecast for the site, and I'll send out an email that talks about how to go ahead and find that and get that link out there. But other than that, that is the brief overview of how to go ahead and use Trektellen up at the Jewel Basin Hawk Watch site. Go ahead and email me, jake@flight@audubon.org if you have any questions.